Good morning, Turfs Up Radio. Wayne Voles, Profits Unlimited, coming to you live from Louisville, Kentucky.
Yes, indeedy.
Oh, my goodness. We got a great day going on. Another good weather day here. Going to warm up a little bit, but still not hot and oppressive like it has been and was last week. So we've been into about 5 days, 6 days now of some decent summer August weather. I mean, below average kind of weather for us. So still upper 80s. I think we may make 91 or 90 today, but man, it's been a great little break weather-wise, and looking forward to it continuing. But as all good things, it's going to warm up and get more humid, they're saying, and starting predominantly tomorrow. So we'll see how it goes, but that's okay. Hey, we're still early August. We still got a lot of summer to go. Uh, August is normally always pretty hot, humid around here. And then we'll have a little break sometimes in September, and then it'll get hot and humid again for a while. So, yeah, we're looking forward to that. So, get hot, humid, maybe a little bit drier to where the grass turns a little bit more dormant. But we've had our fair share of issues in lawns this year. I'll say that, from way too much rain, as we all know, and a lot of markets have experienced that this year, this spring and this summer. Matter of fact, last night, right here in the county that I live in, part of our county was in a flood advisory and flash flood warning. And at my house, we didn't have a 10th. So, but grass is pretty green everywhere around our part of the county for sure. I mean, this region pretty much has some pretty green grass going on. So, guys that are mow only or mow predominantly contractors are having a good year mowing lawns. And I'm not trying to wish you guys any bad luck, but we're looking for a little bit of dry weather, maybe to take hold and help us sell more landscaping jobs. And not that that helps more landscaping jobs, but we are going to talk about what can help sell more landscaping jobs today. And but certainly the dry weather brings on some questions and concerns on from the lawn side and potentially landscaping. But I don't know if we got the time to get there this year, summer wise, where it's going to promote, a whole lot of calls on landscaping. But we still got time to get that promotion going on the lawn renovation end of things. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. We're going to talk about revving up our businesses in a slow time of the year. So we're looking forward to that. And I'm sure between what you guys get going and talking about, we'll go down a tangent or two like we normally do. So, but yeah, with that being said, I'm glad you're here with us. Hope you're off to a great start today. I know Turfs Up Radio's off to a great start. We had the old Aaron Walls, and then Eric was back on today. Nice to have Eric back on with us, and then Daniel with his show. And wanted to talk a little bit about something that he talked about on his show that I found really, really interesting. And then here we are to profit time, and it's hump day. It's already Wednesday. Can y'all believe it? I mean, where's the time going? Where's the time going? So, yesterday I spent a little bit of my day. We'll talk a little personal stuff here for a minute. Spent a little bit of my day getting a look, or let me say this: looking into. Let's phrase it that way. Looking into rehearsal dinner venue for Daniel, who's his wedding's coming up here in October. It's hard to believe it's only a couple months, literally almost a couple months away now. But in the meantime, he's got a ton of fun stuff he's doing, man. He's taking a big trip overseas to Paris and we're going to Paris and France, Germany, and yeah, they're him and Caitlin are kind of taking a honeymoon before they get married, and going to be quite the trip. He's got a best buddy that's getting married over there, so getting married over in France, and so they're going to that and making a vacation out of it after that. So that he's looking really forward to that. And talk. Were you down to 38 days now? I think, or yeah, 38 days. He said today or yesterday or one day he was talking about 40 days. So yeah, we're keeping up a little bit. So you know how it is when you're going somewhere like that, man. You really look forward to it, and it's going to be a great trip for him. So, but as far as Wayne's Lawn Service goes today, we're doing a little bit of mowing, a little bit of marketing, a little bit of landscaping, and just an overall good day going on here. So, hey, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back with more Profit Time here on Turfs Up Radio, your industry, your station. And we got some great things we're going to talk about today. And I wanted to give y'all an update on something. Uh, and if you got any opinions on anything that I'm talking about, if you're listening to us and you're a new listener, let me give you my cell phone number. You can always text in the show. It's 502 550 8307. That's 502 550 8307. And put it in there as Turfs Up Radio Wayne Vose. And feel free to text my show anytime. Or if you got something that you want to, just talk about or hear me talk about on a show, you can text that to me as well. You can also send that through our website, Turfs Up Radio website. It's simple, turfsupradio.com. And you can submit it through there. But there's my personal cell phone number. All I ask is you don't call me, in the middle of the night unless you need help. If you need some help, by golly, feel free to reach out anytime. But just for some fun conversation. And for some of you guys that are in different time zones, remember the time zone change. We're over here. We're in Eastern Standard Time. So, but anyways, I wanted to give you guys an update. Last week, I talked about the gentleman that wanted to hire us and or didn't want to hire us. Let me rephrase that. Talk to us about our services. Specifically, talked to Katie a couple times, but he was like, they wanted a test mow, and I don't know if you guys remember me talking about that, or if we got a new listener that didn't hear that story last week. But and I don't know how you guys think about test mows for our new listeners, but and the only reason I'm gonna retell this story is because I know I got a couple listening. New people that weren't with us last week. But, when somebody tells you we're going to let you, hey, we want to try your service, but we want to test mow. I mean, at some point in time, I don't know where that magic line's at, but at some point in time, you're going to say, hey, I'm not giving test mows anymore. And have a valid reason. I mean, have a scripted reason, if you will. And that's actually something we're going to talk about in the Profit Circle is scripts, working with scripts, and not that you're reading from a script, but it's an absolute great learning tool. Whether you're a one truck operation or multi-crew company, it doesn't matter. Different people do different things. And so that's going to be one of our topics of discussion in the Profit Circle this month. Is how we can implement that and make our companies more efficient and more consistent with answers. But, our scripted answer on a test mow is, Miss Smith or Mr. Smith, with all due respect, our apprenticeship is over. We've been in business 46 years. Are we perfect? Absolutely not. Do we make mistakes? Yes. Are we going to try to do the best job possible when we service somebody's property, whether it's mowing or fertilization of weed control or lighting or whatever it is? Yes, we are going to try to do the best job possible. But, the first mow on a yard, it's kind of like the first application on a yard. That same thing comes into play. Well, have you spray it and we'll see what the results are and we'll go from there. Well, no, your yard didn't get in this kind of shape, whether it's weeds or whether it's high or whether it hadn't been edged or it hadn't been trimmed. There's so many different variables to actually get into the job that when you hire me and tell me, hey, come out and make a lawn application, we'll see how it goes, then we'll sign a contract, or come out and mow, and if we like it, we'll hire you. Our biggest margin or opportunity for error is in that first or second service that we provide to a new property. It's because we don't know the property. We don't know where the holes are. We don't know where the dips are from a mowing standpoint. And from a weed control application standpoint, you know, I think it's up to us as professional contractors to educate and inform our customers or potential customers about realistic expectations on broadleaf weed control. Number one, if we can get 80% control, it's a pretty daggone good job. And the labels of most of these products, when you read them, I know a lot of people don't like to read a label, but let's just pretend that you do, okay? Because we should, you know. But the labels will tell you that hey, you're not going to get 100% control. The goal of any, and this is something, again, it goes back to a scripted answer, but a goal of our lawn care for somebody, our lawn applications, is to increase turf density, right? Through the elimination of weeds and seeding and aeration. All those things need to take place, you know. So I've kind of went down a tangent like I do a lot of times talking about this off that test mow, but I did want to let you guys know that no, we did not get the job. We did not get the opportunity to show them that we could probably make them happy because we didn't do a test mow. So I guess my real question to you guys is simply this. And when I say guys, you girls too. Guys, just not gender specific. I always just say you guys. And that too is for our new listeners, just so y'all know. But bless you. The reality of it is, you know, I wish they would given us an opportunity to show them that hey, we do care. But we didn't get that opportunity. Now, the other school of thought on that is, well, why not just laugh about it internally and say, okay, here. Well, let me tell you why we don't just laugh about it internally and say, okay, here we go. Because what my experience tells me is that the reality of it is when somebody wants a test mow, what they're really doing is telling you up front that they're going to find a reason not to like the service. Now you've went out and you've got their yard cut and trimmed and blown and back in shape, and they're looking for a reason not to pay. That is also something that needs to be considered. So, that's why we want to protect ourselves either with or without a service agreement in place. And I mean, that's just the way it goes. And, we want a signed service contract. And that's just what it's going all about. We need to have a service contract in place. So we didn't get it. I know some of you guys would probably go ahead and do the work without it. I'm not saying you're right and we're wrong or vice versa. I'm just saying in my 46 years of experience, the reality of it is, hey, we got to make some changes. And sometimes, and for us, that change was we don't do test mows. So probably cost us a lot of money, but at the end of the day, sometimes your gut's right. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but for me, I've learned to trust my gut a lot, and that's just the reality of it. So trust your gut, know what's going on, and because more times than right, your gut's going to be right, you know. But that's my thought on test mows. We'll leave it at that, and I hear you, Mike. I agree 100%. Mike says anybody who feels the need to inspect the lawn after his service has been completed doesn't need to be on my list. Yeah, we don't need the micromanagement of it. I mean, you figure how many blades of grass there are in a lawn, and to think each and every one of them is going to be perfect. You know, we could all walk behind each other's services and find something. That's just, I do 100% believe that. You know, let's see. Mike said the result of that situation is your system working the way it should. We feel like it is, Mike. I mean, we feel like it is that we eliminate we eliminate some of them. Uh, that's just the reality of it. So, so, anyways, one of our techs buzzing in. Yeah. So, but the reality of it is, hey, we do what we can do. That's all we can do, and that's just the way it is. So, with that, we're going to take a short break. We'll be right back. I want to talk about referring other contractors a little bit, and how do you feel about that? And we've got a really good group of uh, contractors that we work with that we feel confident that we can refer, and they're going to give either our customers, if they're already our existing customers, or somebody that's just calling in, and saying, hey, I'd like to get this done, and it's something we don't do. And if it's something close to the scope of what we do, we've generally got somebody that we can send them. In other words, what I mean by that is like uh, a lot of drainage work, for an example. We have a gentleman that actually Chris, y'all listened to Chris and met Chris on my show, Chris Kelty. He's done a lot of work for us for our customers when it comes to drain and finish grade work. I mean that's his level of expertise. He's great at it, and we just normally don't get complaints on work that he does, and if we do, he takes care of it. But I share that with you for this reason, and I'd be curious to know if you guys have contractors that you work with closely that way. But we had one of our Fert and Weed customers reach out to us last week, and about some drainage issues in her backyard, and she wanted to know if we could help her. And we said, well, we don't actually provide the service, but we got somebody that can help you with it. And so we gave her Chris's number. Kyle emailed her back and said, here, hey, we don't do that, but here's somebody that can help you with that. Hope this helps. Kind of that type of email, just short and simple to the point. And the reality of it was, and that was, I think, Thursday. And so I guess she reached out to Chris on, Friday or Saturday. Well, by Monday morning, Chris hadn't called her back because he's a lot like we are. If he called her, he adheres to office hours. He just does. Same thing we do here predominantly. We adhere to office hours. You can get us basically 7 a.m. to 4:30, 5 o'clock, or sometimes later. But don't text me at 9 o'clock unless your house is on fire, kind of thing. And I'm not going to respond. Now, if it's snow and ice services, that's something completely different. But when it comes to lawn and landscape work, we adhere to office hours, and Chris adheres to office hours. So she reaches out to him on a Saturday. And so Monday, I'm confident he's going to call her back because we just don't get complaints. Well, Monday morning, she's calling in here. And the message that she left, though, was a little bit nasty into the fact that she's making it sound like we didn't respond. And there's a reason for this whole story, just so y'all know. So anyway, Kyle calls her back, literally called her Monday and said, hey, she said, I emailed that to you. Well, yeah, I got the email, and I reached out to him, Saturday or whatever she said, and he didn't call me back, or he didn't, get back with me. And, Kyle says, well, I know he does, have a business and he's got office hours, and, he will respond. And so that solved that problem for right then. Well, then today, this morning, when I come in and I'm getting our messages that were left on our machine off, um, Katie wasn't in yet, and because between her and me and Kyle, whatever, we get them, and there she is again on there. This is such and such, and I want to let you know I reached out last week to you all, and I reached out again Monday, and I'm reaching out again. I got to get some drainage work in my yard. Nobody will call me back, making it like it's us that's at fault. And so I personally called her back this morning and told her, hey, I said, Miss Smith, I just want to, this is Wayne Vose, Wayne's Lawn Service. And I just wanted to personally follow up with you. I said, I'd spoke with Kyle, and I understand that, he did send you an email, and then he talked to you on Monday about, giving you Chris's number. And so anyway, long story short, she says, well, no, you guys are following up, but he isn't when I call him. And here's my whole point of sharing that story with you. Number one is to let you know that weird stuff happens right here with our business too. Reality of it is, we know Chris does a great job, and he does follow up with people. And I told her, I said, in this situation, he may be a little bit slow getting back to you, but I said he does good work, but I did want you to know we were concerned and wanted to make sure you're taken care of. So here's my whole point to that. Do you have people that you work with and you trust? Because I would literally trust Chris with anything of mine, business or personal, because he does the same quality of work that we do. And I know that. And maybe there is a breakdown in communication this time around, but how do you all feel? How do you guys feel about, referring people out? I don't just refer anybody out, but I do refer people out that I trust and I know. And I don't know. I just wanted to just kick that around a little bit, and because what it's doing for us in this situation, it's making us look bad, and that's why we're careful on who we refer out. We used to refer more people out, but we found out that they didn't follow up, they didn't call, they didn't do the things that our customers were expecting from a customer service standpoint. So I don't know. I just wanted to see if you guys had any information or on what it looks like for you. Do you do it? Do you not do it? And let me know. I wanted to talk about that for a minute just to see how you all did with referrals and how y'all handled those referrals. And or do you just say, no, we don't do it? And I think there's room for both. I think there's room for both of those mindsets when you're running your business. So another thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about today was I hear you loud and clear, Mike. Mike says he has a few guys that he'll refer, but he's been burned too many times to do it a lot. So I agree. I hear you loud and clear on that. And that's why we're very careful about who we do, because, when you do refer somebody, it sends your name along with it. And that can be a little problematic at times for sure. It's almost like you talk about, and, next thing we're going to talk about here today a little bit, and this kind of flows into it from that standpoint, is how we were talking about this morning here on how social media has affected our businesses, and not from a marketing standpoint that you may use or I may use, but how social media can affect our business, or does directly affect our business, from the standpoint of it's easy to find a lot more people now. If somebody wants somebody to do some landscaping or hedge trimming or mulching or whatever it may be, handyman work, fill in the blank, any service type business, it's easy to get on, some of these social medias, whether it's Nextdoor or Facebook or whatever it may be, and say, hey, I need some landscape done, or I need my yard cut, or I need fert and weed done, or I need, somebody. I had a lady was looking at one of our neighborhood things, and she was like, I need somebody that can reasonable that can fix a leak for me in a faucet. Are you guys seeing this too within your businesses where call reduction is down a little bit now? And I don't think that's all of it. And that we're going to talk about that side of it. But what I really want to talk about is the things that can affect slowdowns within our company. And I want to look at it from a seasonal slowdown basis because there's a lot of different things that come into play when it comes to, hey, are your cars off, calls off, or the sales off, and what's affected that kind of thing. And that's what I want to talk a little bit about today is, how do we rev back up, if you will? How do we step back on the accelerator to make things happen a better way? And because we were looking at some numbers, some comparison numbers from one year to the next early this week. I think it was Monday. And I was looking at some numbers, and we knew our call volume was off, and we knew sales were off. The new sales were off, if you will. Reoccurring revenue is okay, but the new sales side was off some, and we knew we were going to have some of that when we diversified our services, and I'll talk about that here in just a second. But to keep us going in a straight line here, as straight as possible, we always have, we meaning Wayne's Lawn Service. I don't know about you, but I'd be curious to know. We always have a seasonal slowdown. That's what we call it. About mid-July to mid-August. That time frame when a lot of people have been on vacations, so they're either paying for vacations or they're buying back to school clothes. School's getting ready to go back, so they're doing the tennis shoe things or shoes for their kids and clothes. And so that's kind of what we've attributed to that seasonal slowdown, if you will. Okay. But we were looking at other things that we looked at to say, well, what else is it? Why else are we behind? And, percentage wise. Okay. And we came up with several different things that I want to talk about a little bit. And one was, okay, we'll attribute some of it to what we traditionally see and have seen for decades, that summer time frame where, you're just not getting the call volume that you normally get for that 3 to 5 week time period. And it's pretty consistent. Now, the simple answer to that you would think would be, okay, well, let's do more advertising to try to increase that volume. And we have done that. We do that. And we are doing that. But still, we had that seasonal slowdown. Okay. It helped, but it's not got us to where we really want it to be. And this is probably the first year that we really start thinking more about what is it other than a seasonal slowdown, if you will. And one thing we came up with, as you guys know, and this is just, and I'm giving you my own experiences, but to help you figure out for yourself maybe what it could be, to take a deep dive into it. If you experience that, whether it's spring, summer, winter, fall, it doesn't matter when that slowdown is, but what are you doing or what may have caused it and what can you do to prevent some of it? And something we looked at too, and we expected some of this to happen, was last year, as you all know, we started holiday lighting and we also started landscape lighting. So what we knew that was going to require was time to build name recognition, and it was going to take marketing dollars to build that recognition, to build those leads, to get people to call. So part of us being off our target and off of what we'll call norm for a second, for May and June, for us, we attribute to that we took some we took some of our marketing budget that we have and transitioned it to lighting and holiday lighting, and we had to start that before that season started in order to build some of that placement on Google ads and that whole thing on Google. Okay, not getting into that side of it today, but we knew we had to get that to take place, to get those calls that we're looking for, to help us with those holiday lighting leads and then landscape lighting leads late summer, early fall. So for us, that's what attributed to part of it. So something else that we looked at that we thought comes into play too, and like I said, we took a much deeper dive into it this year than we have in previous years, was one thing we mentioned, and I want to qualify it, okay, is consumers aren't spending maybe as much. So I'm not saying they are or they aren't. I'm just saying what we've seen is that the buyers that are out there, some of the buyers, for one reason or another, we think are more resistant to buy. There's Matt and Sean. Ta-da. Our marketing specialist for the day, trying to help us fix this problem that we're talking about, and that's our seasonal slowdown that we talked about. Again, I just think we got a pretty good conversation, and I know we're having a little bit of internet issue maybe with you guys, but I would love to get some feedback from you all when you listen to this on our podcast as well, on what you do to try to get over that, or do you not have the problem? I'd say mowing contractors, predominant mowing contractors, you're probably not going to have the problem in a lot of areas this year because we're not having the seasonal slowdown of lack of moisture. Where yards are slowing down and mowings not need to be completed. And for you guys that aren't on some type of reoccurring service contract with somebody, you're probably rolling along pretty daggone good this year. So you're like, Wayne, what the hell are you talking about? But I'm looking at it from a full maintenance company standpoint, you know, and how it affects us, and then how we try to deal with it, and what can we do to deal with it. And looking at it from the consumer's not spending aspect, we came up with a couple things. Number one is, and Katie made a good point about this too, I think it depends on the type of service that we're trying to solicit. In other words, Katie said, a lot of people are spending maybe $200, $300, $400 based on their family size more than just groceries right now. And then you got to ask yourself, okay, does that affect the demographics, or is that the demographic of the customer we want? Well, maybe not for lighting or landscaping, but it certainly affects the demographic of some of the people that have us spray their yards, or would want to have their lawns treated, where, hey, it's going to cost me about $400 or $500 a year to get that done. Well, I can eliminate that and have a month's worth of groceries, So I think, I'm not telling you to overthink it. I'm just telling you to think about what can we do to rev up our businesses during those slow times, and what potentially is causing it. Another area that we thought about, and you guys can tell me I'm crazy for this, and we're two or 3 years removed from COVID, but just hear me out on this. I know for us, when we were going through that COVID thing, and a lot of people at home, and they're looking outside their window and they're seeing their landscapes, and we were doing record stuff as far as new landscape installs. Okay, people were spending money on their landscapes. So did we prematurely, as an industry, if you will, get a really big push, because I've talked to a lot of contractors in different areas of the country that have told me the same thing, that yeah, man, that was a good time for them. Not the COVID, but business wise, people were having a lot of extra landscape work done, and pavers and that whole thing. So did we I'm trying, this is going to be a weird way of saying it. Is it kind of like Pac-Man, I guess? Did we go through and eat all the customers, or a lot of the customers? The answer to that's no, first of all, right? Because there's work out there. But since a lot of that did take place, our mindset on our discussion was with it then, okay, let's buy into that concept for a minute, that we did a lot more than we had in the past. So we've kind of the pool of customers is a little smaller right now, because not just us, but a lot of our competitors within our market did more. You guys did more. So as an industry, we did more. So maybe we don't have the new installs, but Kyle brought up a really good point on it. Said, okay, all right, so maybe the new installation work, there's fewer of that potentially available out there. But what about the reoccurring or the maintenance on those projects? Where's that at? You know, um, let's see. Mike sent us. I think the last few years were an anomaly, especially for bigger projects for him as well. So yeah, I think it's common. I think it's common, and I think when we got to looking at it and saying, well, why are we down 14%? Okay, which is a big number, whether you're doing $10,000 a year or 10 million a year. Percentages are percentages, you know. And part of that, and I'm trying to think how to bring this into it as well. And it sounds like I'm going down a completely different road, but you can't just look and say, look at your sales volume, not your monthly total, because some of that percentage could be, if we're going to say consumers don't have the money, then how much of that may be held up in your accounts receivable? Is it 200? Is it 200,000? Is it 2 million? It's different for everybody. But some of that down may be not actually down sales, but down in collections too. So that comes into play 100% as a part of that percentage as well for most of us. Okay. But so look at the sales side of it. So consumers may not be spending for whatever reason, whether it's fear of what may happen to the economy, fear of what already's happened, and they're seeing expenses and, all their other day to day, right? So maybe they are. But Mike says here, I should have tried harder to sell maintenance packages on my past installs. That certainly is part of it. And that is certainly something, Mike, that we try to do here. We don't sell them all, but we're very good at recontacting those people. Hey, we put a landscape in for you last year. It's probably time to have them trimmed and mulched. Would you like to schedule that service? So that's something that needs to be part of your regular marketing. And when we go back and look at that side of it, that's decent as well. So when we try to look at a comparison, when I say we at Wayne's Lawn Service, we try to look at more than one factor of just saying it's the seasonality of it. It's the seasonal slowdown. Yeah, we know we're going to have a seasonal slowdown, but above and beyond the seasonal slowdown, what else can affect it? And kind of as a summary of what I've talked about this morning, for us, some of it was transitioning to more diversified services and spending more marketing dollars on that And yes, we did rob Peter to pay Paul on some of it, but we did increase dollar volume significantly as well, just so everybody knows. It wasn't like we said, hey, we got a $10,000 budget. We're going to cut landscape budget out and send it over to lighting and holiday lighting. No, we increased the total budget item by at the same time trying to build that name recognition for ourselves and for our company, getting the lighting and the holiday lighting kicked up and off the ground. So we did do that. Let me catch on a couple of these texts you guys have sent in. Let's see what we got, Seth. And Seth might be onto something too. Seth, we didn't give that a consideration, quite honestly. He said, maybe the slowdowns during the July and August timeframe is just people getting tired of the heat and just don't want to do anything right now. So I think that's something that we look at as well. That's a very valid point. It's like, man, let's just wait till the fall. And we know here specifically, Seth, to that point, Kyle had that very exact thing happen with one of his accounts. And it's a nice little job, or for us, it's a nice little job. Let me say that. It's a decent landscape that the guy said, you know what, it's just hot. I'm going to wait till the fall to do it. And I had a lady the other day that I signed up, and this wasn't an installation. This was maintenance. She said, hey, I want to go ahead and do it. She signed her contract. She paid her deposit. She says, but I want y'all to wait till it cools down a little bit to come out and do it. So I think that's a very good point, Seth, that you bring up, that, again, are any one of these things the end all to be all, or the be all to end all? No, they're not. But when we look at all the little things, let's look at the controllables associated with all those little things that we can deal with, But one thing I want to wrap up today and say, our main conclusion to this is, and y'all have heard me say this before, don't stop your marketing. In fact, you got to do more. It's just that simple. You got to do more. You got to do more. So the main takeaway from my show today is simply, don't slow down on your marketing when things slow down within your business. That's the time to hit the accelerator, to accelerate, keep your name out there, because what it really boils down to, if there's less fish in the pond, we're going to have the proper bait. The bait is your marketing and your advertising efforts. It's an easy item to cut in a budget, but the last thing you want to do is, if you're in a time period of the season where you've got fewer buyers, the name recognition has got to be out there more than ever. On that note, we're going to wrap it up. I appreciate your time. And yes, Seth, I appreciate you saying that in the Profit Circle. We did a Q&A response for Seth. I hope it helped. It was realistic and is a great question, by the way. And so, hey, we'd love to have you guys in a Profit Circle with us. Check it out. It's on our website, profitsorus.com. That's profits, AREUS.com. Click on the Profit Circle. It's right there at the top of our page. We'd love to have you in there with us. Keep listening all day long to Turfs Up Radio. We have King Darren coming up next. And remember, profit is not a dirty word. We'll see you Friday.